From Fox 8 Sports, this is the Overtime Podcast.
From the Fox 8 studios in New Orleans, this is the Fox 8 Overtime Podcast. I am your host, Sean Fazende. Riding shotgun next to me, as he does each and every episode, is Andre Johnson Jr. Before we get into today's fire content, be sure to like, share, rate, review. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, get the bell notifications for when we drop that fire content. And we have another great episode today. We're going to talk some draft because it's getting closer and closer. And of course, the Saints are busy getting some work done. But before we get to that, it is a Monday, pretty eventful weekend just in the sports world, in the city, everywhere. I had a pretty good weekend. Andre, how was yours?
Oh, it was fun. You know, like you said, great weather, fun weekend. A lot of sports going on in the city, especially from a basketball standpoint, watching the Pelicans. As somebody from here, I naturally root for the Pelicans. It was not a good weekend for Pelicans fans.
Well, you know, Friday, it looked like they had it kind of locked up, that sixth seed. Then all of a sudden, they didn't get the help they needed from Phoenix, and then they left it up to chance, and the Lakers are just a bad matchup, and they got to get them again on Tuesday. LSU baseball, where have you gone? I was at the LSU spring game. I'll just say this. I don't think Brian Kelly is a fan of spring games. They should probably just cancel it because it didn't have the same kind of appeal as it has in years past. I just don't think Brian Kelly's all that into it. Right. And then Saturday night, I know you and I both share this passion for UFC. That Max Holloway knockout of Justin Gaethje was just unbelievable at the buzzer. It was an unbelievable card of fighting, UFC 300. Man, I had myself a good little Saturday.
Absolutely. Like in Max Holloway, he has a thing. Last 10 minutes of the fight, he'll point to the middle of the octagon.
He's ready.
And he will just go down swinging. And literally as the clock hits 0, he knocks Justin Gaethje out. One of the most incredible things that I've seen. So, yeah, just off of that, you know, I had some wings, a little bit of queso dip. I had a great Saturday night.
I went to a buddy of mine's house. He's kind of got the setup in the back, and so we did that whole thing. We watched the fight. The fight stayed until almost 1 in the morning. It was a long night of fighting, but it was a great card, no doubt about that. But here we are on this Monday. We turn the calendar to a new week here. We're about 11 days from the NFL draft, and you know we're going to hone in on this when it comes to the Saints because that's obviously the biggest thing going on right now. Even though they've been quiet, we still talk because there's a lot to certainly talk about, and it's a pretty significant topic that I want to dive into today with the big picture. It's a particular position. Wouldn't call it a position of need, but it is the big ticket picture. It is the big ticket position when it comes to the draft. Of course, we are talking about the quarterback position.
And the Saints recently, their quarterback room just got a little larger. You know, they brought in Kellen Mond. Now they have 4 guys in that room, 5 if you count Taysom Hill. So as we look at our big picture topic with the draft about a week and a half, 2 weeks away, we've talked about all these other positions the Saints could potentially draft. But at pick 14, or even more interesting, in the second round, pick 45, would you be upset if the Saints decided to go quarterback? And if they did, who do you see being available and who would you want?
All right, so let's talk quarterbacks because for this podcast, quarterbacks are never a bad topic of discussion. It gets the comments going. We know that. And keep them coming. No problem. Keep them coming. You know that. The question you pose is certainly a good one. Should the Saints invest in a quarterback in the draft? Now, in the first round, unless the top 2 somehow become available, absolutely not. I'm not considering
top
a quarterback.
Top 2 being Caleb Williams and
Jaden Daniels. And even I'll even give you Drake May at that point. Because, I mean, at 14, you probably have him graded higher than that. But let me just say this, first things first for the record. We talked about the first round pick, but another day 3 investment in a guy that could develop into a high-end backup, to me, is a waste of time. They have done that, and the guy they love in Jake Haener. Let me reiterate that. The Saints love Jake Haener. Hopefully, Clint Kubiak loves him as well, the new Saints offensive coordinator. Plus, as you mentioned, they signed Nathan Peterman, and they signed kind of out of nowhere Kellen Mond. And hypothetically, if they were to draft a day 3 guy, another developmental guy, that would be 5 quarterbacks on their roster, with essentially none of them having a vision of becoming a starter, except for obviously the current starter, and Derek Carr, at least right now. But there is a scenario where considering drafting a quarterback makes sense. You alluded to it. I'm looking at the board. I see the Saints in the second round. I see pick 45. Then I look at the quarterback class where there's a chance 6 players could have a first-round grade or a high second-round grade. We know the 6 there are Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, and Michael Penix. Then I look at my roster, and y'all know I'm higher on Derek Carr than most people. I actually think he had a better year than people realized last year. I thought he fought through some things that weren't necessarily his fault. I thought he had an overall decent season. But what if it's obvious while the season is going on this year that he's done? He's not the same player. He's on the downside of his career, and they need to invest in that position in 2025. Then I peek at next year's class. It's already being viewed as a thinner group than the one currently available in 2024. Then I look at this year's class again. And when my pick is up at number 45 in the second round, Bo Nix or Michael Penix lingering out there, which those would be the 2 that could potentially slip into the second round, at least according to the experts out there in the draft guys out there. Then I turn to the room, everyone in the room, the war room and everything, and I ask the question, we got a high grade on this guy. We don't have to start him right away. It is not a necessity to start him right away, but he could become a legitimate starter down the road. Should we just go ahead and get our guy now? Not in the first round, but in the second round, where I could potentially have a sneaky first round pick in the second round because of the way the grades fall and because it is certainly the glamour position in the NFL. Now, me personally, I'm probably going against taking one at that time unless you have a mid-1 grade on that player. And there are no other prospects available at that time that are close to that grade. Too many other positions or too many other places where the need for depth and youth are certainly more important. But this is the only place, in my opinion, second round at 45. Not even talking about trading up. I'm talking about if something all of a sudden slips to you. It's the only place where it makes sense to at least consider it, especially if you think this player, has flashes of franchise material. And for some reason, if they take a QB in that spot at 45, call it Bo Nix, call it Michael Penix, who knows how high they are on either one of those guys. I had heard through the grapevine earlier during the college football season that they were intrigued with Michael Penix. Then obviously they would drop either Peterman or Mond, or really probably both in that scenario, because it's very hard to get quarterback reps in training camp with 4 guys, and this would be 5 guys. So you would probably have to drop that down to at the very least 4, but probably down to 3. Bottom line, I'll say it again. I don't think this happens. I don't think this scenario plays itself out, but I think the Saints would probably skew more if we have other needs, other positions. But the Saints have to be prepared for this scenario to play itself out, and all kinds of scenarios to play themselves out, because that is what the draft is all about. So I am not going into this draft thinking Saints have to get a quarterback. Last year at this time, I felt like it was a good investment to try to find a high-end backup somewhere in the draft, because you had Jameis Winston at the time and find someone that you could develop into that 2 role. They kind of did that last year. I don't necessarily think that's the avenue you go, but only if you can find the bargain guy in the second round that has first-round grade on them and could potentially, you could see having some sort of franchise quarterback material or becoming a franchise quarterback down the road. That's the only way I consider it, but I don't think you just take it off the table and say, no way. I do think that's the way you would have to consider it.
While you were talking, I thought about a quote that I believe it was Jeff Ireland, maybe Mickey Loomis, something they said after the combine when the news came out that the Saints interviewed Jaden Daniels. They said, we wanted to do our due diligence because in the past, we thought that maybe these prospects would be gone by the time we drafted. They wound up falling to us, and we had not done our due diligence on it. So we wanted to do our due diligence on Jaden. Now, I don't think Jaden falls to the Saints, but I'm just thinking about that from the quarterback perspective as a whole. I do believe that quarterback's on their radar. It's not high on their radar because they have so many other positions of need. But if you get to that second round, there is one guy, one name that I wrote down who, if he is there in the second round, I think it's an absolute steal for anybody who picks him, and that guy is Michael Penix. I think that Michael Penix is the second best quarterback in this draft after Caleb Williams. I think he had a phenomenal year last year at Washington. He didn't win the Heisman, second place for the Heisman, but he did win the Maxwell Award, which also indicates the nation's best player. Led an undefeated season, had an absolute virtuoso against Texas in that college football playoffs. I think he's the best pure pocket passer. And
he's a point guard. He's a point guard.
He is.
He really is.
You don't see many pocket passers in the NFL these days. A lot of guys run and have some kind of mobility. And don't get it twisted. He can do that too, because we saw him run the 40 and he ran a 4.5 40.
Yeah.
So the guy's got speed, pure pocket passer, strong arm, can make every single throw. If anything, the only thing causing him to fall as far as injury concerns. He's had two season-ending injuries, and that's kind of making some teams maybe take a step back, but it just seems like a trend in the NFL, especially when it comes to the draft. And all the draft analysts and even NFL teams, they get silly around this time, Sean. We've seen it over the past few years, guys who do not have as impressive of a college resume or who did not look as good in college go before other guys who have. Maybe because of pro days or, this guy's got all the tools, yada, yada, yada. And more often than not, they don't pan out.
Right.
I think about Mitch Trubisky getting drafted over Deshaun Watson. I think about Zach Wilson and Trey Lance getting drafted over Justin Fields. And that's kind of what it feels like when I look in the first round and see J.J. McCarthy and see even Drake May, Bo Nix get all these high grades over Michael Penix, who, in my opinion, was better than them in college. So if a guy of that caliber is there in the middle of the second round, quarterback is on your radar. The Saints, I'm trusting, have done their due diligence based off of what they said around the combine time. If that guy is there, I think that guy might be worth kind of throwing the board out the window and saying, you know what, we have this guy graded high. If the Saints do have him graded high, we think he's one of the best talents in this class. Let's get him.
I think you make a good point, and I also think this, like, is it one of those scenarios where it has to be like he's so so much higher on the board than the rest of the prospects that you have to take this guy? Is that the only way you do it? Or let's just say you have two highly graded prospects that slip into the second rounds, two guys you have graded in the 20s, the mid-20s, which is realistic. And then you get to the point of your pick at 45. Then what do you do? If you have like prospect 22 and prospect 23 still available and quarterback and the other one's a tackle or an edge, then what do you do? I mean, there's a lot of scenarios that could certainly play itself out. But I think the bottom line where you and I agree is you don't go into the draft thinking we have to get a quarterback, but you don't be so close-minded as to say, whoa, there's a potential game changer here at the game's most important position, and he falls in our lap in the second round, and we should just turn a blind eye to it. I think that's foolish. I think that's dumb. I've always said it's smart business to invest in the quarterback position, or at least have your eyes open to investing in the quarterback position. Now, what do you think? Because I personally don't think it's going to happen. I still think it's going to be, tackle and then another defensive player or Brock Bowers and a tackle at some point. Whatever the case may be, I don't necessarily think the scenario is going to play itself out where a quarterback would be available. But I think all in all, we're in agreement here that if a name pops and you said Penix, I said Nix or Penix, if one of those two are available and it's like, he's really high grade and it's a pretty important position, I don't think either one of us would say, no way. Let's walk away from that.
If it's the situation that you name where you've got 22 and 23, I think you take the guy at the position where you need the most. But it's a very specific situation where you would pick a quarterback in this spot, in my opinion. Let's say you handled your offensive line pick in round one.
What if you had Bowers in round one?
If you get Bowers in round one, I don't think you can afford to go quarterback in round two, because at that point your biggest need hasn't been addressed. But let's say they get Olu Fashanu or one of those offensive linemen that they have graded high in round one. And let's say, hypothetically, Michael Penix is 14, 15 on their board. They get to the second round. The next available guy is 28, 29, 30 on their board. A guy that you had a first-round grade on has fallen to you in the second round. And again, as of this moment, we mention it every podcast, right now the Saints don't have any third or fourth round picks. So unless something changes and unless they make a trade, after pick 45, they don't have another one until pick 150 in the fifth round. So if you've got a first-round grade on this guy and the next guy you have is 15, 16 spots down, and you don't pick again for 2 rounds, I think you take the guy you've got the high grade on.
But I think you also said the key thing there when that was provided you already got your biggest need with pick 14. Because if you don't and you got Penix at 25 or whatever, and like there's a tackle you have graded like 33 at 40, which is still great value at 45, and it gets really tricky. Now we don't have access to where their actual board grades are, and we wouldn't know what they would actually do in that scenario. But that certainly would have played. I mean, that's, for instance, like last year, they picked Brian Brzee, but no one thought Will Levis was going to be available. And I got to go back and listen to the tape of DA talking after. It's like I think he kind of hinted at, when that quarterback kept slipping, we had to kind of rethink it a little bit. Mm-hmm. And obviously they went and with Brian Brzee, and I think Brian Brzee is going to be a great player, and I think he had a decent rookie season. But it goes to show you when it's that position that's available, then all of a sudden you got to shuffle a little bit, or at least be open to the possibility. So bottom line is stay tuned. If they draft a guy in the 5th round, to me, that would just be taking up a roster spot, and I guess you're talking about getting rid of some other guys that's at the same position when it comes to Kellen Mond or Nathan Peterman. But I do think it's something where you have to keep an open mind, and if the scenario plays itself out, do it. I mean, that's just what you have to be open to when it comes to the draft.
Right, and drafting a quarterback becomes even more difficult now that they have brought in Kellen Mond. And
let's talk about that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's worth mentioning. Kellen Mond was drafted to the Minnesota Vikings in 2021.
Yeah.
In 2021, Clint Kubiak, the current offensive coordinator for the Saints, just hired, was the offensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings. So Kubiak, I'm sure, had a hand in drafting Kellen Mond out of Texas A&M. The year Kubiak left, Kellen Mond also left.
Yeah.
Now, they didn't go to the same team. This is the first time they've reunited since, but you can infer based off of all of that Kellen Mond is a Kubiak guy. Nathan Peterman, we were kind of talking when Peterman got signed, he was more of a Derek Carr guy.
Right.
Because he played with Derek Carr. You look at that quarterback room, you've got Derek Carr, Jake Haener, Nate Peterman, Kellen Mond, and then I throw the question mark next to Taysom because we haven't gotten to speak to Kubiak. We don't know how Kubiak is going to use Taysom. I know in training camp last year, Taysom did get some quarterback reps. Not sure what the plan there is right now, but if you plan on giving Taysom quarterback reps, that's 5 quarterbacks that you have in that room right now, and the Saints realistically are only going into the season with 2 or 3.
I don't know how. I'd have to go back and look to see how often they've brought 4 quarterbacks to camp where all 4 were trying to get reps. I guess the year Jameis and Taysom were competing, they also had. Who else they have that year? Was it Ian Book? And was it someone else? Was it Trevor Siemian as well? Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of. It's not easy to get a lot of. And I guess the third, they were rotating 3rd-string quarterback reps, Siemian and Ian Book. It's a difficult thing to do. And when we originally thought about this idea for the podcast, the Kellen Mond news hadn't come up, and then now they added him, it does kind of muddy the water, so to speak. It doesn't completely take quarterback off the table, as we mentioned, but it does tilt the scales more in the direction of, okay, maybe they kind of view this as their path for the quarterback, at least in 2024, and then worry about it again in 2025. But that one caught me off guard because I kind of thought they were set, at least heading into the draft. I didn't think they would sign another one before the draft, and then you maybe just kind of recalculate after the draft what's available, what's not, because there's been some times where they'd sign a quarterback as an undrafted free agent, whatever the case may be. But the Kellen Mond thing really caught me off guard because I didn't realize they had another idea for a quarterback on their radar.
Yeah, that one really came out of left field for me as well. So now you kind of get to wondering. We know Derek Carr is going to be on the roster day one.
Yeah.
We know Taysom Hill will be on the roster day one. That's undebatable.
Is it an open competition?
So now when you look at that 3rd quarterback spot, because I don't think they bring 4 into the regular season, you got Haener, you got Kellen Mond, and you got Nathan Peterman. Is it a triple threat match? See who comes out on top between those 3? because Kellen Mond's not old. I mean, he's relatively young in this league. He's only been in the league for about 3 or 4 years. Yeah. Like, he's only been in the league for 3-4 years. Nathan Peterman's the veteran. Jake Hayner's the guy who you invested a mid-round pick in last year, but it is to be noted that Clint Kubiak did not invest a mid-round pick into Jake Hayner.
And this is why I originally, got to my thoughts about, the potential of drafting a quarterback. To me, a day 3 prospect, you got 3 of them right here. I mean, you got 3 of them right here. There's no need for a day 3 prospect. The only way you consider anything when it comes to drafting a quarterback is if you somehow see starter potential, have a starter vision for this quarterback. And I think the only spot where that could happen, other than obviously the first round, would be at pick 45. It's not the only move they made. They also signed Equanimous St. Brown, the wide receiver. I remember the name well. It's quite a mouthful to say.
Yeah.
But look, he's 6'5". Say no more. They wanted a big body receiver. They got their big body receiver. Hasn't been as productive as his brother out in Detroit, Amon-Ra St. Brown. But nonetheless, they bring in a receiver. I'm sure at a pretty low price tag. And he'll compete, and he'll have a chance to battle, and he'll have a chance to try to make a name for himself within the Saints offense.
Yep. I mean, and I've spoken on this before, but he's a veteran. And having a veteran having a veteran in that room.
Yeah.
Presence, that's the word I was looking for.
Right.
Having a veteran presence in that room around Chris Olave, around Rashid Shaheed, around A.T. Perry, 3 guys who are relatively young, that is going to help the Saints. Having a guy who's 6'5" and can give you something that those other guys can't give you, a big body who can go up and make catches, that will help the Saints. A brother of Amon-Ra St. Brown, a lot of the fantasy football players probably owe a few trophies to Amon-Ra St. Brown the way he's been producing. He's never produced on that level, but can he give the Saints a dimension that maybe they don't have right now? Maybe he can. We'll see.
We'll see. He's been numbers are fairly low when it comes to production throughout his career. We'll see if maybe a fresh start could help, or a different offense could certainly help. Clearly, he was someone they had targeted. They were able to land him and bring him in. I still think the Saints address pass catcher with one of their selections in the 2024 draft. We went over that a couple of weeks ago. But I think overall, the Saints are in a spot where it's just finishing up those loose ends when it comes to your draft preparation and full speed ahead with next Thursday's draft. Man, it's almost here already.
Right, and that receiver room is going to be an interesting spot to watch as we head into training camp, because we know Olave stamped. We know Rashid Shaheed stamped. I can't even say we know A.T. Perry is stamped. He came in at the end of the season and had some good games, but I mean, you brought in Cedric Wilson, you brought in Stanley Morgan, you've got Equanimous St. Brown. We expect the Saints to maybe draft a receiver as well. Throw A.T. Perry in that mix with the new offensive coordinator and what he may be looking for. It's going to be a battle to see who gets a lot of relevant playing time in that Saints receiver room.
And I want to see what he values, because, again, we've talked about this. I still think it's the yards after catch, a guy that can catch it and run with it with the ball in his hands. I don't know if they got that guy yet. So we'll see. This is a tackle and wide receiver heavy draft this year, so we'll see who potentially could be that player the Saints target. Everybody's kind of starting from scratch. This is a fresh set of eyes on them for everyone. That's from the quarterback to the offensive line to the tight ends, receivers, everybody. So it should be an interesting few weeks up ahead. Interesting enough, the Saints off-season program, they're just doing weights and stuff. I think they started today. So a lot of those guys are back just doing work, running and lifting, that sort of thing. On-field work doesn't start until next month in May. But it is kind of a start of the, off-season vacation, if you will, or off-season free time. Is kind of they shift into a little bit of a structured mode of being back here in New Orleans. Anything else for us today?
Just excited. This is the greatest time of the year, other than the time where they're actually playing games. We've got the draft coming up, the NFL draft. Speaking of draft, as we record this episode, the WNBA draft starts in about an hour and a half. We'll see where LSU star Angel Reese goes.
We'll see where she goes.
NBA playoffs about to start. Hopefully the Pelicans will be in the NBA playoffs. They've got 2 chances in the next 4 days.
Don't screw it up. Come on. I mean, you have 49 wins this year. Come on.
49. That's the most they've had in over a decade. You would think in the NBA 49 wins can get you a playoff spot, but that's the Western Conference for you.
Yeah. Got to do what you got to do. Got to win some games. Beat the Lakers. Don't even make it. I don't even care if you got to play Denver in the first round. Just beat the Lakers. Do not play around. Get yourself into the playoffs. That will do it for us here today on this Monday. For Andre Johnson Jr., I am Sean Fazende. We'll catch you guys next time on Overtime.